Imagine climbing into bed on a winter night in Victorian London, only to discover the bedroom is almost as cold as the street outside. In many homes during the 1880s, bedrooms were not heated overnight at all. The warmth of the fireplaces downstairs rarely reached the upper floors, and on particularly bitter nights, frost could even form along the inside edges of the bedroom windows. Yet for the people who lived in these houses, this was simply part of everyday life. As evening settled over London in the late 19th century, the atmosphere inside a Victorian home began to change. The sounds of the day slowly faded. Dishes clattered one final time in the kitchen, chairs were pushed beneath tables, the last chores were finished before the household prepared for bed. Gradually the house grew quiet, and then one by one, the lamps were extinguished. Lighting in Victorian homes was expensive. Gas lamps and candles could illuminate only a small portion of the house, and families preferred not to waste them unnecessarily. So, as the evening progressed, rooms were darkened one after another. Soon only the sitting room remained lit. Eventually even that small pool of light faded as the family said their goodnights and began climbing the staircase. Now imagine climbing those stairs yourself. In your hand you carry a single candle. The flame casts a small circle of light that moves along the wallpapered walls as you climb. Every step creaks softly beneath the wooden boards. Behind you, the house is already falling into darkness. At the top of the staircase, you reach the bedroom. You open the door, and immediately you feel the cold. Victorian bedrooms were far colder than most modern people would tolerate today. Coal was expensive, and keeping fires burning through the night in every room would have required enormous amounts of fuel. So most households allowed the bedroom fireplaces to go out before bedtime. The warmth of the house stayed downstairs. Upstairs, the air turned cold. During harsh winters, the inside edges of the windows sometimes grew frosty by morning. Curtains were drawn tightly to block the drafts, but even so, the air in the room remained sharp and brisk. Victorian bedrooms themselves were simple spaces. A sturdy wooden bedstead stood against one wall. Nearby stood a washstand holding a ceramic basin and pitcher of water. A small wardrobe, perhaps a chair or two, and little else completed the room. The washstand served an important purpose. Without modern plumbing, most bedrooms had no running water. Instead, the basin and pitcher allowed residents to wash their face and hands in the morning before the household fires were relit downstairs. But before anyone could sleep, another problem had to be solved. The bed itself was freezing. To modern people accustomed to warm bedrooms, climbing into such a bed would feel shocking. Victorians, however, had a solution. One of the most common tools was the bed warmer. This curious device looked like a long-handled metal pan with a lid. Inside the pan, hot coals from the fireplace were placed carefully. The pan was then slipped between the sheets and moved slowly across the mattress. Gradually, the bed began to warm. Only once the chill had been chased away would a person finally climb beneath the blankets. In some homes, heated bricks or stones wrapped in cloth served the same purpose. The bedding itself was designed to trap warmth. Victorian beds were layered with thick wool blankets and heavy quilts. Wealthier households often used feather-filled eiderdowns that created a deep, insulating layer above the sleeper. Once tucked beneath these blankets, a small pocket of warmth formed around the body, despite the cold air filling the room. Many people also wore nightcaps while sleeping. These soft caps were not merely decorative. They helped keep the head warm during long winter nights when the bedroom itself remained unheated. Victorian nightwear was simple and practical. Men usually slept in long cotton nightshirts that reached down to the knees. Women wore loose gowns made from linen or flannel. These garments allowed freedom of movement while still helping the body retain warmth. The mattresses themselves were quite different from the ones we know today. Rather than springs or foam, Victorian mattresses were typically stuffed with horsehair, wool, or sometimes straw. They could feel quite firm, though regular beating and turning helped keep them comfortable. But occasionally these mattresses hid an unpleasant surprise. Bedbugs were an unfortunate reality even in respectable homes during the 19th century. Housekeepers often aired bedding by the window and beat mattresses vigorously in an effort to keep them clean. And sometimes the house itself carried other quiet inhabitants. In the stillness of night, mice occasionally moved behind the walls or beneath the floorboards, scratching softly as they searched for crumbs left behind during the day. For someone lying awake in the darkness, these faint sounds could be surprisingly noticeable. Beside the bed stood another object that modern observers often find surprising: the chamber pot. Indoor plumbing was still uncommon in many Victorian homes. Rather than walking through a dark house to reach an outdoor privy, most people kept a ceramic chamber pot beneath the bed or inside a small wooden cabinet known as a commode. During the night, it served as the household's private toilet. In the morning, these pots had to be emptied, often by servants in larger homes or by family members themselves in smaller households. Now imagine lying in that bedroom. The candle has been blown out, the room is completely dark. For a moment, everything seems quiet. But after a few seconds, you begin to notice the sounds. The faint crackle of a dying fire somewhere below, a clock ticking steadily in the hallway, the distant rumble of carriage wheels crossing the cobbled streets outside. Sometimes the wind rattles the window pane, sometimes it whispers softly down the chimney. And occasionally another sound drifts through the streets of London: the call of the night watchman. Before modern police patrols became common, watchmen walked the streets through the night, keeping watch for fires or disturbances. As they passed beneath the gas lamps, they sometimes called out the hour so residents would know all was well. Their voices echoed faintly through the quiet streets. High above the comfortable bedrooms of the family, another small scene unfolds. Imagine a young servant girl climbing the final staircase to the attic. Her day has been long. She has carried coal, scrubbed floors, polished brass, and washed dishes late into the evening. By the time she reaches her room beneath the roof, the rest of the household is already asleep. Her room is small and narrow. The ceiling slopes sharply along the roof beams. Her bed is simple, covered with thin blankets rather than the heavy quilts used downstairs. There is no fire here. The winter air creeps through tiny gaps in the roof tiles. She lights a candle briefly to prepare for bed. The flame flickers against the wooden beams overhead. Moments later, she blows it out. The room falls completely dark. Within minutes, she is asleep, knowing she will rise again before dawn to begin another long day of work. Elsewhere in the house, the master of the household may still be awake. Imagine him making one final round through the darkened rooms before retiring for the night. Candle in hand, he walks slowly through the downstairs hallway. He checks the front door lock. He glances at the fireplace to ensure the flames have died down to safe embers. Fire was a constant concern in Victorian homes. With open flames, candles, and coal fires throughout the house, a single forgotten spark could ignite curtains or rugs during the night. Satisfied that everything is safe, he extinguishes the final lamp. The house grows darker still. Historians believe that sleep in earlier centuries sometimes occurred in two stages. People often experienced what was known as a first sleep, followed by a brief waking period in the middle of the night before returning to a second sleep. During this quiet hour, some people prayed, read by candlelight, or simply rested before drifting back into slumber. Children often shared beds during cold weather. In smaller homes, it was common for 2 or even 3 siblings to sleep beneath the same blankets, conserving warmth during winter nights. Slowly, the house settles into silence. The warmth beneath the blankets grows comfortable. The sounds of the house fade away. Outside, London continues its restless life beneath the fog and gaslight. But inside the bedroom, darkness surrounds the sleeper completely. Would you have slept comfortably in a Victorian bedroom like this? Or would the cold, the creaking floorboards, and the strange sounds of the night have kept you awake? For the people of the time, however, this routine was simply part of life. Night after night, Victorian families climbed their narrow staircases carrying candles, warmed their beds with glowing coals, and settled beneath thick blankets while the house slowly grew still around them. The fire's embers faded, the final candle was extinguished, and the Victorian home slept, waiting quietly for the first sounds of morning to begin the cycle again.